I didn't buy you, Mercy. I saved you, said the cowboy who saw the fat woman's worth. The town was small, dusty, and forgotten by most of the world. The streets were dry, and the air always carried the smell of dirt, sweat, and old wood. People here were used to hard lives. They woke up early, worked until their bodies hurt, and went to sleep tired and worried. Kindness was rare, and judgment was easy. Everyone knew everyone, and rumors traveled faster than the wind. On this day, a crowd gathered near an old wooden platform in the center of town. The platform had been used many times before for different public events. Sometimes it was for selling animals. Sometimes it was for announcements. But today it was being used for something much more painful. People stood close together, whispering, laughing, and pointing. Some came out of curiosity, some came for entertainment. Very few came with any sense of care. At the edge of the platform stood a heavy-set woman. She wore a simple, worn-out dress that did not fit her well. The cloth was old, faded, and patched in several places. Her shoes were dusty and cracked. Her hair was tied back in a loose, messy way, as if she had not had the time or energy to care for it properly. Her face showed years of stress, worry, and sadness. She kept her head low. She did not look at the crowd. She stared at the wooden floor beneath her feet, watching small cracks and splinters in the wood. It was easier to look at the floor than to face the eyes of people who did not see her as a person. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she tried to hide it by holding them together, but the fear inside her was too strong. The voices around her felt loud and heavy. Some people whispered cruel comments about her size. Others laughed quietly, thinking it was funny. A few shook their heads, not in sympathy, but in judgment. To them, she was not a woman with a story. She was just someone to look at, talk about, and forget. Inside her heart, memories played again and again. She remembered her younger days, when life had felt a little kinder. She had once dreamed of a simple, happy life. She wanted a small home, honest work, and people who cared about her. But life had not followed her dreams. One bad choice led to another. Trusting the wrong people had brought her pain. Poverty had pushed her into corners where she never wanted to be. She had worked hard, but it was never enough. Each time she thought things might improve, something went wrong. A job would end. A promise would be broken. A person she trusted would leave. Slowly, her hope became smaller. Slowly, her belief in herself became weaker. She began to think that maybe this was all she deserved. The man running the event stood near her. He spoke loudly, trying to keep the crowd excited. His voice was sharp and careless. To him, this was just another day, another way to make money, another show for the town. He did not look at the woman's face. He did not care about her feelings. He only cared about keeping the crowd interested. Each word he spoke felt like a heavy stone falling on her heart. She felt smaller with every sentence. She felt like her life had been reduced to this one moment, this one place, this one platform. She wondered how she had come so low. She wondered if anyone in the crowd could see how scared she was. Her stomach felt tight. Her chest felt heavy. It was hard to breathe normally. She tried to stay strong, but inside she felt like she might break. She told herself not to cry. She did not want to give the crowd that satisfaction. She had cried too many times before, alone, in the dark, with no one to hear her. She thought about her family. Some had passed away, some had turned away from her, some had judged her without knowing her pain. She felt like she no longer belonged anywhere. This town did not feel like home. The world did not feel kind. She felt like a shadow of the person she once was. The crowd continued to grow. More people arrived. Some leaned against nearby buildings. Some stood with crossed arms. Children peeked from behind adults, curious but confused. The woman felt exposed, like every part of her life was on display, even though no one truly knew her story. She wanted to disappear. She wanted the ground to open up and take her away from this moment. But she stayed where she was, not because she was brave, but because she felt she had no other choice. Life had taught her that sometimes you stand still, even when everything inside you is screaming to run. In her mind, she spoke to herself quietly. She told herself to stay calm. She told herself that this moment would pass, just like all the other painful moments in her life. She told herself not to hope for kindness, because hoping only made the pain worse when kindness did not come. She could feel the weight of people's eyes on her body, on her face, on her clothes. They judged her without knowing her struggles. They made stories about her in their minds, stories that were not true. They did not know how many nights she had gone to bed hungry. They did not know how many times she had been treated badly and still kept going. They did not know how many tears she had wiped away in silence. To them, she was just a shape, just a joke, just a moment of entertainment. But inside her, there was still a small, quiet voice. A voice that said she was more than this. A voice that remembered the younger version of herself, the girl who laughed easily and believed in better days. That voice was weak, but it was still there. It whispered that she still mattered, even if no one else believed it. The wooden boards beneath her feet felt cold and hard. The sun above was bright, but she felt no warmth from it. Sweat formed on her forehead, not just from the heat, but from the stress and fear. She wiped her face quickly, hoping no one would notice. She wondered who would speak up for her. She wondered if anyone in this town still had a heart. But she did not expect much. Life had taught her to expect disappointment. Expecting nothing felt safer than hoping for something. As the noise of the crowd continued, her mind drifted to a simple wish. Not for riches, not for fame, just for someone to look at her and see a human being, someone to see her pain and not laugh, someone to treat her with basic respect. It felt like too much to ask, but it was all she truly wanted. She took a slow breath, then another. She tried to steady herself. She told herself that no matter what happened next, she would survive it, just like she had survived everything else. She had survived hunger. She had survived being forgotten. She would survive this too. Still, deep inside, her heart felt tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of being strong. Tired of being invisible as a person, but visible as a target. She wanted rest, not just for her body, but for her soul. She stood there, a silent woman on a noisy platform, surrounded by people but completely alone. The town saw her as a moment, as an event, as something to talk about for a day and then forget. But they did not see her heart, they did not see her past, they did not see her worth. And as she waited, with her eyes on the floor and her hands shaking, she believed, just for a moment, that maybe this was how her story would end. Not with understanding, not with kindness, but with silence, shame, and being forgotten by a world that never truly knew her. From the back of the crowd, a man stood quietly, watching everything with serious eyes. He was a cowboy, known in the town for his quiet nature and honest work. His clothes were dusty, his boots worn, and his hat had seen many years of sun and rain. He did not come to town often unless he had to sell supplies or buy what he needed. He preferred open land, fresh air, and long rides to crowded streets and noisy people. He had not planned to stop at the gathering. At first he only heard the noise and came closer out of curiosity. But when he saw the woman standing on the wooden platform, something inside him changed. The laughter of the crowd did not sound normal to him. It sounded wrong. It sounded cruel. He could see it in the woman's body language, the way she held her hands, the way her shoulders were bent forward, the way she kept her eyes down. These were not the signs of someone who felt safe. The cowboy had seen many hard things in his life. He had lost people he loved. He had failed at things he cared about. He had been judged when he had nothing but his horse and his pride. There was a time when people looked at him the same way this crowd was looking at her, as if he was less than them, as if his life had less value. Because of that, he had learned to read pain in others. He did not need words to understand what she was feeling. He could see fear in the tightness of her face. He could see shame in the way she tried to make herself smaller. He could see deep sadness in her stillness. To him, she was not a joke. She was a person who had been pushed too far by life. As he moved closer, he heard some of the comments people were making. Some laughed about her size. Some spoke as if she could not hear them. Some acted like she did not even deserve basic respect. The cowboy felt his jaw tighten. His hands curled slightly at his sides. He felt anger, but it was a quiet anger, the kind that sits deep in the chest and burns slowly. He remembered his mother's words from long ago. She had always told him that a person's true worth was not in their looks, their money, or their mistakes. It was in their heart. She had taught him to stand up for those who could not stand up for themselves. At the time, he had not fully understood her. But standing there, watching this woman being judged, her words came back clearly. The cowboy did not see a fat woman. He saw someone's daughter, someone who had once been a child with dreams, someone who had laughed and cried and hoped just like everyone else. He wondered what had happened in her life to bring her to this place. He wondered how many times she had been hurt before today. He felt a strong pull inside him to do something, but he also felt fear. He knew that stepping forward would bring attention. People might laugh at him too. They might question his reasons. They might turn their judgment toward him. He was a simple man. He did not like trouble. He did not like being the center of attention. But he also knew that doing nothing would mean accepting what was happening. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. His heart beat a little faster. He looked around at the faces in the crowd. Most people looked entertained. A few looked uncomfortable but said nothing. He thought about how easy it was to stay silent. How easy it was to walk away and pretend he had not seen anything. But he could not forget the woman's eyes. Even though she kept them down, he had seen a quick look of pain in them. That look stayed with him. It felt like a silent request, not for money. Not for rescue, just for someone to see her. The cowboy took a slow breath. He told himself that one person could make a difference, even if it was small. He did not know what would happen next. He did not have a full plan. He only knew that his heart would not let him walk away. As the man running the event continued speaking, the cowboy listened carefully. The words felt cold to him. He felt like the woman's life was being talked about as if it meant nothing. Each sentence made his decision stronger. He felt a deep sense of responsibility, not because anyone asked him to, but because his conscience would not let him turn away. He thought about his own lowest moments, times when he had been hungry, times when he had slept under the open sky with no clear future, times when he had felt invisible. He remembered how much it meant when one kind person had helped him long ago, not with big money, but with simple respect and a chance to keep going. That memory gave him courage. He stepped forward slightly, still staying near the back, but closer than before. His eyes never left the woman. He wanted her to know, even if only in a small way, that someone was watching her with care, not judgment. He noticed how she flinched at loud voices. He noticed how her breathing changed when the crowd reacted. These small details told him how deeply this moment was affecting her. It was not just an event. It was another wound on a heart that already carried many scars. The cowboy felt a quiet promise form inside him, a promise that if he had the chance, he would not let this moment end in more pain for her. He did not see himself as a hero. He did not think in big, dramatic terms. He only thought about doing what felt right. Some people in the crowd glanced at him. They saw his serious face and calm posture. They did not know what he was thinking. To them, he was just another man in a hat. But inside him, a decision was growing stronger with every second. He knew that life often gave people small moments where they could choose who they wanted to be. Walk away or step forward. Stay silent or speak with action. He had learned that these small choices could change lives, even if no one else noticed. The cowboy straightened his back slightly, his shoulders squared. He felt nervous, but also steady. The noise of the crowd faded a little in his ears. All he could really see was the woman on the platform and the unfairness of the situation. He did not feel sorry for her in a weak way. He felt respect for her strength. He knew it took courage just to stand there and survive that kind of public shame. He admired her for not breaking down, even though he could tell how much it hurt her. In his heart, he spoke quietly, as if speaking to her without words. He told her she was not alone. He told her that someone saw her. He told her that her life still had value, even if this crowd did not believe it. The cowboy did not know how this story would end. He did not know what he would have to give or what he might lose. But he knew one thing clearly. It would not be just another face in the crowd. He would not be just another person who watched and did nothing. He would choose to see her as a human being. And that choice, made quietly in his heart, was the first step toward changing both of their lives in ways neither of them could yet imagine. The noise in the crowd slowly changed as the bidding moved forward. Voices went up and down, numbers were called out, and people reacted with laughter and surprise. To many in the crowd, it felt like a game. To the woman on the platform, it felt like time was standing still. Every second felt heavy. Every sound felt too loud. The cowboy stood still, his eyes focused. His heart beat steadily, but inside his thoughts were loud. He waited, listening carefully. He did not rush. He wanted to be sure of his choice. He knew that once he raised his hand, everything would change. People would notice him, people would talk. But he was ready for that. When the moment felt right, he slowly lifted his hand. At first, only a few people noticed. Then, someone nearby turned and looked at him. Then another. The man running the event saw him and called out his number clearly. The cowboy's voice was calm when he spoke. There was no excitement in it, no pride, just a steady tone that showed he was serious. The woman did not look up at first. She heard a new voice in the crowd, but she did not expect anything different. In her mind, it was just another person joining in. She kept her eyes down, her shoulders tight, her body still. The bidding continued for a short time. A few people raised their voices again, more for fun than for real interest. Some laughed and made comments, but the cowboy stayed firm. Each time he answered calmly. His hand rose again when needed. His voice did not shake. Finally, the man running the event called out the last number. He looked around and waited for someone else to speak. No one did. The crowd became quieter. Then the man brought his hand down and declared it finished. It was over. A wave of reaction moved through the people. Some were surprised. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. A few made jokes about the cowboy's choice. They did not understand. They thought they knew his reason, but they were wrong. The woman felt a strange emptiness inside. She knew the sound meant it was finished. She knew something had been decided about her life, but she did not know what kind of person had made that decision. Fear mixed with tiredness. She prepared herself for whatever would come next. When she was guided down from the platform, her legs felt weak. She kept her eyes on the ground as she walked. She did not want to see the faces of people watching her. Each step felt heavy, as if her body carried more than just her weight. It carried years of pain, shame, and disappointment. She was brought closer to the cowboy. She could see his boots first, dusty, strong, steady. Then she slowly lifted her eyes just enough to see his hands. They were rough from work, but they were not shaking. Then she saw his face. She expected to see pride, or control, or coldness. Instead, she saw something else. She saw seriousness. She saw calm. She saw eyes that were watching her, not her body, but her face. There was no smile, no mockery, no hunger for power, just quiet focus. For a moment, she did not understand what she was seeing. It felt unfamiliar. People usually looked at her with judgment or pity. This look was different. It made her feel confused and uncomfortable in a strange way. The cowboy spoke, not loudly but clearly enough for her to hear. His voice was low and steady. "I didn't buy you, Mercy," he said softly. "I saved you." The words did not make sense to her at first. She blinked. Her mind felt slow, as if it could not catch up. Saved you? From what? From who? From this place? From this moment? She had heard many empty words in her life, promises that were never kept, kind-sounding sentences that hid bad intentions. Her heart had learned to protect itself by not believing too quickly. She looked at him, unsure what to say. Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. She did not know how to respond to something she did not fully trust. The cowboy did not push her. He did not grab her arm. He did not speak again right away. He gave her space, as if he understood that her heart needed time to feel safe. Around them, people continued to talk. Some were disappointed. Some were curious. Some lost interest and began to walk away. To the crowd, the moment was already ending. To the woman, it felt like her whole world was shifting. She tried to read his face. She searched for signs of cruelty or control. She looked for hidden plans. But all she saw was tiredness mixed with kindness. It confused her even more. Her mind went back to all the times she had trusted the wrong people. How they had smiled first and hurt her later. How they had spoken gently and then taken advantage of her weakness. Her heart warned her to be careful. But something inside her also wanted to believe him. The way he said the word "saved" was not loud or proud. It was quiet. It felt heavy with meaning. As if he understood how serious this moment was. As if he knew this was not just about money or winning. It was about her life. She swallowed hard. Her throat felt tight. Her eyes burned slightly. But she forced herself not to cry. Crying in front of people had never helped her before. "Why?" she finally asked, her voice low and unsure. The cowboy did not answer right away. He looked at her for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. Then he spoke simply. "Because no one deserves to be treated like that," he said. "Not you." Not anyone. The words were simple, but they hit her deeply. No one deserves to be treated like that. No one had ever said that to her before. Not in a way that felt real. She felt something shift inside her chest, a small crack in the wall she had built around her heart, a tiny opening where hope tried to enter. She still did not fully trust him. Years of pain could not disappear in one moment. But she felt something she had not felt in a long time. She felt seen. Not as a body, not as a problem, but as a person. The cowboy stepped slightly to the side, giving her space, showing with his body that he was not there to control her. His actions matched his words. That mattered more than anything he could say. People around them continued to move on with their lives. The town returned to its usual noise. But for these two, time felt different. It felt like a line had been crossed, like something old had ended and something new, unknown, had begun. The woman stood there, unsure of what her future would look like. She did not know where she would go or what would happen next, but for the first time in a long time, her future did not feel completely dark. The cowboy stood beside her, not in front of her, not behind her, beside her, equal, quiet, steady. And in that simple position, she felt something powerful. She felt that maybe, just maybe, her life was not over. Maybe this moment was not the end of her story. Maybe it was the beginning of a new chapter, one where mercy was not just a word, but a real action that could change a broken path into a hopeful one. After the crowd slowly disappeared, the noise of the town faded into the background. The woman and the cowboy stood for a moment in an awkward silence. The air felt different now. The pressure of many eyes was gone, but the weight of what had just happened was still heavy in both of their hearts. The cowboy was the first to move. He did not rush her. He walked a few steps and then stopped, giving her time to follow if she wanted. He did not pull her, did not order her. He simply waited. This small action told her something important. He was serious about what he had said. He was not trying to control her. She hesitated. Her feet felt slow, as if they were unsure where to go. For so long, other people had decided for her. Now, suddenly, she was being given a choice. That felt strange. It felt scary, but it also felt respectful. Slowly, she followed him. They walked away from the center of town. The streets became quieter, the buildings became fewer. The air felt a little cleaner. With each step, her breathing became easier. The heavy feeling in her chest did not disappear, but it softened slightly. The cowboy led her to a small, simple place near the edge of town. It was not fancy. The walls were plain. The door was old, but it was clean and quiet. It felt safe. Safety was something she had not felt in a long time. He opened the door and stepped aside, letting her go in first. That small gesture meant more to her than he could know. It told her again that she was not being treated like something owned. She was being treated like a guest, like a person. Inside, the room was simple. A small table, a chair, a bed with clean sheets, a bowl of water, some basic food. Nothing extra, nothing to show off, just what a person needed to rest. She stood near the door, unsure what to do. Her body was tired, but her mind was still on alert. Years of hard life had taught her to always be ready for something to go wrong. The cowboy spoke gently. You can sit, you can eat, you can rest.
You're safe here. Safe.
The word felt strange in her ears. She had heard it before, but it had not always been true. Still, something in his voice made her want to believe him. She sat slowly on the chair. Her hands rested in her lap. The cowboy placed the food on the table and then stepped back. He did not watch her closely. He did not rush her. He gave her space, as if he understood that trust could not be forced. She picked up the food with shaking hands. The smell made her realize how hungry she truly was. She ate slowly at first, then a little faster. Each bite gave her body a small bit of strength. As she ate, her shoulders relaxed just a little. The cowboy sat on the other side of the room, not too close, not too far. He looked tired, too. The day had been heavy for him as well, but he did not complain. He simply stayed, quiet and steady, like a strong tree that does not move easily in the wind. After some time, he spoke again. "You don't have to tell me anything you don't want to," he said. "But if you ever want to talk, I'll listen." Those words were simple, but they carried deep meaning. She had met many people who talked, very few who truly listened. She did not answer right away. She finished eating. She wiped her hands on a cloth. Her heart beat a little faster. Talking about her past felt painful, but keeping everything inside had also been painful. "I didn't always live like this," she said quietly. The cowboy nodded, not interrupting. "I had a family once," she continued. "Not perfect, but we had moments of happiness. Then things went wrong. People I trusted hurt me. I made mistakes too. I believed promises that were never meant to be kept." Her voice shook slightly, but she kept going. "I worked. I tried. But every time I thought I was getting back on my feet, something pushed me down again. After a while, you start to believe that maybe you are the problem. Maybe you don't deserve better." The cowboy listened without looking away. His face showed no judgment, only understanding. "You do deserve better," he said quietly. The words made her eyes burn. She looked down, afraid that if she looked at him, she might cry. Crying felt dangerous. It made her feel weak. But she was so tired of being strong. "I'm tired," she whispered. "Not just in my body, in my heart." The cowboy nodded slowly. "I know that kind of tired," he said. "Life can take a lot from a person. Sometimes it takes things we don't even realize are gone until they're missing." They sat in silence for a while. But this silence felt different from the silence on the platform. That silence was full of shame and fear. This silence was calm. It was safe. He showed her clean clothes, simple, but fresh. "You can change if you want," he said. "There's water to wash up too." She held the clothes in her hands. The fabric felt clean and soft. A small thing, but it made her feel human again. She nodded and went to a small space to change. When she came back, she felt lighter, not just in her body, but in her mind. Washing away the dust of the day felt like washing away some of the pain, too. The cowboy smiled gently, not at her body, not at her appearance, but at her as a person. A small, respectful smile. It made her feel something warm in her chest. Over the next hours, they talked a little more. Not everything, not all at once, just small pieces of her story, small pieces of his. He told her about the long roads he had traveled, the people he had lost, the quiet life he lived. There was no pressure, no demand, just two people sharing space and time. For the first time in a very long time, the woman lay down on a bed and did not feel afraid to close her eyes. Her body relaxed. Her mind slowed. The hard edge of fear softened. As sleep slowly came, she thought about the day, about the platform, about the crowd, about the cowboy's words. I didn't buy you. I saved you. She did not know what tomorrow would bring. She did not know where her path would lead. But one thing was clear. She was no longer alone in her pain. Someone had chosen to see her. Someone had chosen to treat her with dignity. And in that choice, her healing had begun. Morning light entered the small room softly. The woman opened her eyes slowly, unsure at first where she was. For a few seconds, her body felt tense, ready for trouble, as it always had been. Then she remembered. The quiet place, the cowboy, the safety, the kindness. Her breathing slowed as her mind caught up with her heart. She sat up on the bed and looked around. Everything was still simple, still calm, no shouting, no rough voices, no feeling of being watched, just silence and peace. It felt strange, but in a good way. It felt like a new beginning, even though she did not fully understand what that meant yet. She stood up and stretched slowly. Her body still felt tired, but it was a different kind of tired. Not the tired of fear, not the tired of stress. It was the tired of someone who had finally slept deeply after a long time. When she stepped outside, the air was cool and fresh, the sky was clear, birds made small sounds in the distance. The world looked simple and honest in the early light. For so long, her life had felt dark, even during the day. Now, for the first time in years, the morning felt gentle. The cowboy was already awake. He stood a short distance away, working quietly, preparing for the day. He did not rush toward her. He did not stare. He simply looked up and gave a small, respectful nod. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied, her voice still soft. They stood there for a moment, not needing many words. Sometimes, after a long night of heavy thoughts, simple words were enough. He offered her a warm drink and some simple food. Again, nothing fancy, just honest care. She accepted it with a small thank you. Each small act of kindness felt like another brick being placed in a new foundation inside her heart. As they sat, she began to think about her future. For so long, she had not allowed herself to think ahead. Thinking ahead had only brought disappointment before. But now, something inside her felt different. A small spark of courage began to grow. "I don't want to go back to how things were," she said quietly. The cowboy nodded. "You don't have to," he replied. "Your life doesn't have to stay the same just because it was hard before." She looked down at her hands. They were rough. They showed years of work and struggle. But they were still her hands. They could still build something new. "I don't know what I can do," she admitted. "I don't have much. I don't have people who can help me." "You have yourself," he said gently. "And sometimes that's more than you think." Those words stayed with her. Over the next days, the cowboy helped her find small, honest work in nearby places. Nothing easy, nothing given freely, but real chances, real opportunities. People who needed help cleaning, cooking, organizing, and doing simple tasks. At first, she felt nervous. She worried people would judge her again. She worried they would look at her the same way the crowd had. But something had changed inside her. She stood a little straighter. She looked people in the eyes. More. She reminded herself that she was not what others had said about her. She was a person who worked, who tried, who survived. Some people were kind, some were not. But she learned something important. Other people's opinions did not have to control her life anymore. Each small job gave her more confidence. Each small success made her believe a little more in herself. She began to feel proud of simple things, finishing a task, earning her own money, helping someone else. The cowboy did not stay close all the time. He did not hover. He did not act like a protector who needed to control. He trusted her to grow on her own. That trust made her stronger. Sometimes they talked in the evenings. Sometimes they sat quietly. Sometimes they laughed at small, simple moments. He never reminded her of the platform. He never made her feel like she owed him anything. One evening, as the sun went down, she spoke from her heart. "Before you," she said, "I thought my life was already decided. I thought I was only what people saw when they looked at me." The cowboy listened. "Now," she continued, "I'm starting to see myself differently. I'm starting to believe I can be more than my past." He gave a small smile. "That's because you always were more," he said. "You just needed someone to see it, including yourself." Those words touched her deeply. With time, she saved small amounts of money. Not much, but enough to feel independent, enough to feel proud. She started making small plans, maybe a better place to live, maybe learning new skills, maybe helping others one day, the way she had been helped. She began to take care of herself more. She stood in front of a small mirror one day and really looked at her face, not with shame, not with hate, but with honesty. She saw lines from stress. She saw tired eyes. But she also saw strength. She saw a woman who had survived more than most people could understand, and for the first time, she smiled at her own reflection. The cowboy watched her change from a distance. He did not take credit. He did not tell people what he had done. He did not look for praise. He simply felt quiet pride, not in himself, but in her. He knew he had only opened a door. She was the one who walked through it. One day she told him, "I don't want to be known as the woman from that day anymore." He nodded. "Then don't be," he said. "Be known as the woman you are becoming." That sentence stayed in her heart. In time, their paths began to slowly move in different directions. Not because of anger, not because of sadness, but because life was calling her forward. She needed to build her own future. He needed to return to his own quiet road. The day came when she packed her few things. She stood in front of him, nervous but strong. "I'll never forget what you did," she said. "You didn't just change my situation. You changed how I see myself." He shook his head gently. "You did that?" he said. "I just reminded you of who you already were." They shared a quiet moment. No big speeches, no dramatic words, just respect and understanding. As she walked away, she did not feel like a victim anymore. She felt like a survivor. She felt like a woman with a future. She felt like someone who finally knew her own worth. And somewhere on a dusty road, a cowboy watched her go, knowing that mercy had not just saved one life that day. It had created a new one, a life built not on shame, not on fear, but on dignity, strength, and the powerful truth that every human being has value, even when the world forgets to see it.